One day, in the highest mountains on Earth, a hunter was chasing a snow leopard. In his mad rush, he came upon a glacier. Exhausted and parched, he picked up a piece of heavenly blue-colored ice to quench his thirst. But the ice would not melt, even when he warmed it in his hands. He had just discovered the first aquamarine on Mount Chumar Bakor, in the dramatic Karakoram mountain range of northern Pakistan. Laurence Boehmer is a jeweler in the exclusive Place Vendôme in Paris. Born in America of German nationality, he studied as an engineer in France. This unusual training allows him to explore new avenues and dream up the most wildly imaginative pieces of jewelry without getting bogged down in the technique.
We create a lot of jewelry using precious stones of all colors that we set with ball bearings and also plant-like shapes. We particularly like aquamarine. It's hard to find good quality specimens. You judge its quality by the transparency and the intensity of its color, and the best mines are in Pakistan.
Pakistan is a young state, founded on August 14, 1947. This new Muslim nation attracted 7 to 8 million people from India during the partition, with a similar number of Hindus migrating in the opposite direction. The civilization of this country dates back several thousand years before Christ. In the 16th century, the Mughals founded a dynasty which gave the country magnificent buildings, mosques and palaces, but also fabulous legends about the precious stones of this land. At the start of the 17th century, the first English merchants, attracted by the dynasty's riches, began to seek concessions from the court of the great Mughal Ahangir. The decline of the Mughal Empire corresponded with the rise of British influence. Today, these mineral resources are underexploited, and it is in the mountains surrounding the Indus that the most beautiful gems can be found. The rubies, emeralds, sapphires, but most importantly, the unbelievable aquamarine crystals. The road to the aquamarines closely follows the Karakoram Highway, known as the KKH. For more than 2,000 years, this former Silk Road has been a vital link between China and Pakistan. The KKH winds through the arid gorges of Kohistan. The inhabitants of this area are largely descended from notorious bandits who sought refuge in these rocky mountains. Anyone wanting to cross this region must therefore take a guard with them. Quite apart from the climatic and seismic problems of the area, bandits like the fearsome Chilasi have long been a major obstacle to communications all along the Indus. Other tribes used to avoid crossing this region, and even today it still has a certain reputation. At the end of a long unpaved road, you come to Skardu. The atmosphere is tense in this windswept town, which lies just a few dozen kilometers from Jammu Kashmir, the source of the never-ending conflict between India and Pakistan. This town is known for its dealers who collect the gems mined in the surrounding mountains.
Did you have aquamarine?
This stone is of very poor quality. These dealers' first response is to offer extremely poor samples at astronomical prices to test the potential buyer.
Did you have best and big pieces?
After some deliberation, he decides to get some advice from his colleagues before showing off his real treasures.
The
reply seems positive. The rustic appearance of these workshops is meant to deceive people who know little about the world of precious stones. The real showroom, reserved for the initiated, is far more discreet. In this well-guarded room, the dealer stores the treasures he has accumulated during the summer months, when the snow on the highest seams melts, allowing the miners to extract the crystals. In actual fact, the real market is not here. This man is just a collector who sends the fruits of his endeavors to contacts in cities in Pakistan where a handful of intrepid foreign clients dare to venture.
It's
It's a nice piece.
Quartz,
Quartz and aquamarine. A
design.
very nice shape.
These aquamarine crystals will go to museums or private collectors. The damaged but very pure, intense blue crystals will be sold to be cut. There are several mines in northern Pakistan that supply exceptional aquamarines.
Is this aquamarine come from which mine?
From the sugar mine.
Sugar, sir.
Nice piece. And it's possible to see the mine of sugar?
The sugar mine is closed because of the snow, but the Chumar bakor mine is open. I can introduce you to someone there.
It's the iron in aquamarine that makes it blue. It also contains silica, aluminium and beryllium, a rare metal so hard and resistant to high temperatures that it is used in alloys for aircraft.
Let me introduce you to Mr. Gulmurtaza. He works in the Chumar bakor mine, and he can take you there and show you around.
Hello, my name is Gulmurtaza. I work in chumar bakor.
I want to see a mine of aquamarine, perhaps Chumar bakor. It's possible?
Chumar bakor is at a very high altitude. It's extremely dangerous to go there. And I think it would be very difficult for you to get there.
It takes 2 days to reach the Nagar Valley, where the Chumar bakor mine is situated. The landscape alternates between fertile fields irrigated by glacier streams and deep gorges with the Indus running through them. The Indus River begins its 3,300-kilometer odyssey in Tibet, then crosses Pakistan from top to bottom, and finally flows into the Gulf of Oman. The land it crosses is rich in precious stones and metals, especially gold, which has been carried along the riverbed for centuries. On the riverbanks, nomads seek their fortune in the fine grey sand of the father of all rivers. Using techniques passed down through the centuries, the men use a sieve to systematically eliminate the large stones in the sand. You have to wash a lot of sand to find just a few grams of gold. The gold-bearing sand falls onto a wooden board. The heaviest pieces remain there. This precious mix is gathered onto a sort of wooden plate called a bati, and the gold, which is the heaviest, settles in the middle. After meticulous washing, the sand is progressively eliminated and the specks of gold begin to appear. The specks of gold gleaned day after day are stored away. Once a sufficient quantity has been collected, they are amalgamated with mercury to form artificial nuggets. They are sold according to their weight. By following the river Hunza up for the last few kilometers, you come to a valley nicknamed Little Paradise, which is dominated by aquamarine mines. The Hunza and Nagar valleys were once ruled by a Mir, the all-powerful chief of this peaceful kingdom, which grew rich from its strategic position on the Silk Road. One day he decided to divide it between his two sons, who became sworn enemies. This war between the two valleys lasted a long time, until one night when the son of the Mir of Nagar crossed the frozen river to reach his cousin, the daughter of the Mir of Hunza, with whom he had fallen in love. They had a child called Ayesh, meaning sent from the sky. From that day on, the two valleys have lived together in peace.
These are our miners.
These are old miners. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The mine is at the top. That's it. The mine of Chumar Bakar.
How many meters?
5,000 meters.
And how many people work in this place?
There are maybe 500, almost.
Last year, some people have got injured during this explosion, and they are still alive here. It is quite difficult and dangerous, really. During this 10-year tenure, the people's destiny has changed because they are earning huge money from the mining. And this is one of big source of income, chumar bakor is. The people totally depend on the minings. This is a source of income. People from this village are not getting jobs. They are not working in other places because they know that they have a mining place. They can get a lot of money from the minings. So they are going the mining place, chumar bakor. And this is the only source of income.
A long time ago, when Chumar Bakar was discovered by hunters, only the inhabitants of Summayar were allowed to exploit the precious stones. At first, there was no need to dig deep tunnels to find the aquamarines. The crystals could be found on the surface after being torn from the rock by erosion. Then people abandoned their jobs in the valley to work in the mine. As the number of prospectors increased, the search for stones became more and more intense. They bought equipment to dig into the mountain. Their efforts were rewarded, and they found large quantities of aquamarine. In 1994, an enormous crystal weighing 4 kilograms was found lying in a fault in the rock on a bed of mica. All the miners had to do was pick it up. It was the most spectacular find since the mine opened. It looks like a mass exodus as the inhabitants of Summayar make their final preparations before heading up to the mine. Because it is at such a high altitude, the men must take everything with them: equipment, food, and even firewood, as no trees grow above 3,500 meters. Horses and mules are used to carry the heaviest packages. This is a Shiite area, but pagan beliefs still exist. Before the ascent, Gul Murtaza goes to be blessed by a shaman in the hope of a safe journey. In the mountains of northern Pakistan, at the edge of the formidable glaciers, where delicate plants burst into flower after the winter snows melt, a place exists that is so pure it is beyond the grasp of mere mortals. The village elders say that spirits can be found there, and even today the people of these valleys firmly believe in them. Only the shaman can contact the spirits and appease them, for the slightest thrown stone or the smallest dislodged rock could scare them and incur their wrath. The spirits can set off huge avalanches with just a few claps of thunder. It is often on long journeys into the mountains that the shaman receives messages from the spirits. So there is a close relationship between this man and the spirits, who can give him healing powers and the power to predict the future of those who are undertaking a long journey. To make contact with the spirits, the shaman inhales the smoke of juniper branches until he goes into a trance. By dancing to the sound of the flutes and tambourines, he ascends to the heights where the supernatural beings live. In his ecstasy, he can hear messages from the spirits sent through the music. The ascent to the mine can finally begin. Over the last 3 years, the men from the village have used the money from the aquamarine to build a road up to the foot of the glacier. This huge project entailed the use of dynamite to blast away the rocks deposited there millions of years ago by the Silkian Glacier. Man's work is only temporary in this environment in a perpetual state of flux. The freezing conditions and a multitude of streams constantly cause landslides that make it impossible for any vehicle to use the road.